How is everybody doing? How is everybody doing? I wanted to do a part 2 on assessing the Trump administration, the scorecard on the Trump administration. There's been some data that I've recently became aware of, which is gonna lead me to adjust my appraisal of the Trump administration. Probably appraise it upwards. Stay with us. So, how is everyone doing? So in the first video, I gave the Trump administration, I said anything between 55 and 65%, and I justified why. I discussed the issue of inflation is down, discussed the issue of jobs. 117 jobs were added in the month of April. I discussed about the issue of negative growth in the first quarter of the year, which is very significant because if there are two consecutive quarters of negative growth, that is a technical recession. But there's been some information that I just came across, and I just want to play you something from Fox Business Network, which is going to help us discuss this issue. Stay with me. Okay, here it is.
Of the S&P 500 index, which is now up 10% during that period. In fact, the S&P is now higher than it was on the April 2nd Liberation Day. The market is cheering the likelihood of significant trade deals. The market is cheering the GDP report this week, where the underlying growth was really plus 3%. The market is cheering today's jobs report, which beat all expectations and shows that private payrolls are rising while government payrolls are falling. The market is cheering zero inflation for the month of March. To quote President Trump on that with Truth Social, the market is cheering $1.98 wholesale gasoline, groceries down, energy down, mortgage rates down, employment strong. And yes, he's also right. The Fed should be cutting their Fed funds policy rate. And
Cool. So the first thing that I will have to highlight is that the market is up by 10%, which is good news. Obviously, one has to take that into context. I've already said in the past that you can't just look at the stock market. The stock market alone is not an indicator that will tell you anything. But then if you look at the fact that the GDP growth for the month of April was 3%, that's actually very, very big and good news, because we have to juxtapose that with the fact that the GDP growth for the first quarter was a negative 0.3, which is why we say we have negative growth for the first quarter. This is January, February, and March, and then in April the GDP growth was a positive 3%. That is massive news. Because I was of the view that with the negative growth of the first quarter, it's likely that also the second quarter is going to be negative. But I don't see that happening now, knowing that now the GDP growth month to month, April was 3%. That would also mean at the very least that the GDP growth for May will be positive. I don't expect it to be around 3%, but I expect it to be positive, which then significantly decreases the likelihood of a recession anytime soon. So that's very positive news. And then the other stuff about inflation. Okay, let's hear it again.
Groceries down, energy down, mortgage rates down, and gasoline, groceries down, cheering $1.98 wholesale gasoline, groceries down, energy down, mortgage rates down, employment strong. And yes, he's also right. The Fed should be cutting their Fed funds policy rate.
Cool. So then it also turns out that the energy prices are down. That is, gas prices are now around, in some states, $1, let's just say $1.50. That hasn't been the case since maybe 2018. That is incredible, actually, because the gas prices have been one of the key factors contributing into the out of control living expenses in the United States. And the fact also that the grocery prices are down is actually a massive thing, massive news, because one have to look in terms of here. This is the issue of grocery prices per basket of groceries that would not normally be aggregated based on what most households would buy, and that would be aggregated in terms of when a household buys a basket of groceries, how much does it on average cost? And that's actually been shown that it is down. And that's actually massive. And so looking at those things, looking at the job numbers, looking at the positive GDP numbers of April, looking at the stock market price that went up in the last past 2 months, it's very unlikely for me to expect a recession anytime soon. So that the doomsayers and the naysayers are likely to be incorrect on this. So therefore, I'll adjust my grade for the Trump administration for the first 100 days to be maybe anything between 70%, let's just say 60% to 70%. I would still not give him an A yet because there are certain issues that I do think and feel that he hasn't done them as well as I would like to see him do. When it comes to the issue of the border, obviously I'll give him an A plus. When it comes to the issues of the LGBTQI craziness, foolishness of men and women's sports, I give him an A plus. When it comes to social issues in general, I give him an A plus. When it comes to the issues of the economy, which is why most people vote for him, even people who are liberal on social issues, he doesn't have an A yet. Jobs are up, inflation is down, but on his key selling point of manufacturing and bringing back jobs back to the United States, he still is not getting an A yet, even though he's doing better than most presidents when it comes to the issues of manufacturing, bringing back. It doesn't even have to be manufacturing, like all of these blue collar jobs. Blue collar jobs are a big deal in every economy, not just in the United States. There is no economy in the world that can become a great economy without a high proliferation of blue-collar jobs. And so we're seeing that being up. Also, in this report that is done by the great Larry Kudlow, is that he has shown that private sector jobs are way up, public sector jobs are way down. And that is very good because it is a sign that the US economy is moving towards self-sufficiency as opposed to the debt-funded economy that is based on public sector jobs. So the more people are funneled towards private sector jobs, the more likely we are able to see a country being able to be sufficient, to be able to collect revenue, to be able to balance its budget. And the more a country has public sector jobs, that's also more likely that those jobs, the salaries will actually be paid for through debt, which is not sustainable. And that's actually what happens in most of these countries where there is an over-reliance on public sector jobs. So the growth of public sector job is huge, Yeah, so my assessment of the Trump economy, or just the Trump results, has been adjusted. I'd say 60 to 70%. More likely, I'll probably say 65 if you split the difference and say 65. He can still do better than that. So comparing it maybe to a Joe Biden, I would say that a Joe Biden, for me, in most of the years that he was in power, I would give him an F, a serious F. So anything between 30% to 40%. maybe 35%. So that's the difference, in my opinion, between the Trump and a Biden administration. But then there's still time. So I don't think that at any time in the Biden administration I would have given him anything more than a 39 to 40%. Like even a 39% is very generous. Yeah. So that's my views on these issues. Yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about these economic indicators. If you look at them together, because looking at one economic indicator is actually very misleading. And here I'm talking about people who honestly want to assess this guy fairly, not people who already have made up their mind that there's nothing that he can do that is good. Cool. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Cheers. I'll see you in the next one.